Live. How's it going, Sabrina?
Going well. How's everything on your end?
Pretty good on this side of the planet. Yeah, so just give the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do and all that, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, cool. So my name is Sabrina Victoria Mensah, also known as Cherry, and I'm an author of a book called It's Not the Mirror That's Dirty. And at the moment, I'm working on a natural skincare brand. It's in the making, so it will be ready and established in the next couple of months or so. And I also have my own social media pages that you can find on Sabrina V Mensah, which is all to do with mindset and becoming a better version of yourself and using natural products and non-toxic living. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
bit about me.
What got you into that holistic route for skincare and weight loss and that?
Well, I think it's been like a lifelong journey where I was looking for peace of mind. And I think that I realized from young that the world was something was wrong. And so I started looking and searching. And then got into a few different industries where I saw a lot of corruption. And I had a lot of corruption in my personal life. And I got out of it and overcome it. And I become a completely different version of myself with strength and confidence. And so I just remember one day, after I'd stopped a certain career path to, and I'd got out of the madness that I was in, once I healed my brain, I started looking at the products I was using on my skin. And I was like, well, if I can look after my mindset, well, now I want to start looking after what I'm putting on my skin and what I'm putting in my hair. And I got really into it. And I was like, it worked. I felt better. And so I just kind of wanted to share it. And then I started making my own products and going for a more herbalistic way, because before I was a political blogger. So I was into politics. I was deep in. I'm a person that when I get into something, I get deep into it. And you work with a lot of people that are power hungry, very, very power hungry. And when I come out of my political blogging, I come out like I felt like I'd been chewed up by a machine and spat out, literally how I felt. So I had to really work on my healing. So I thought to myself, how can I, as an individual, leave a better mark on the world without getting chewed up at the same time and losing my peace of mind? So I thought, if I start learning about holistic things and I start learning about non-toxic living and becoming a better version of yourself and elevating your mind, that's me leaving my own carbon footprint without losing my mind, basically, and
Right.
working with
Yeah.
power hungry people. And I didn't like that. So that's why I thought, okay, this is a better way of being political, but in such a softer way. So that's how
hmm
that happened.
What got you into the political realm? Or I mean, I know because you're from the UK, obviously,
Yeah.
and everybody knows there's a lot going on over there right now. But we'll get into that
Yeah.
here shortly. So I can only imagine what it would be like to be in that realm with as much bullshit or tumultuousness that's going on. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think I could see how it would weigh on your brain and probably your soul too, and your heart, because it's I don't want to say it's like Game of Thrones, but it's probably not too unlike Game of Thrones. All the backstabbing and people trying to get ahead and like, look at me, I'm special, pick me kind of crap. So I could understand why you would want to detoxify from that type of environment. Was there a breaking point when you were in the political blogosphere? I mean, you don't have to go into too great a detail if you don't want, but there just got to be a point where you're like, enough.
You know what? I've been into politics twice. The first time I got into politics, I studied a lot of like the black laws. I become basically a litigator. I started studying the laws of the land and history and law, and I didn't know that I could represent myself in court. So I started doing that with my own work, my own pay. If I had fines or debts, I would litigate myself through my research, and I kept winning. I kept winning in the courts. I kept doing it. So then what happened was I got really into it. I'm right into it. And I started studying more. And then I turned it into a business. And it was called LIPS, which meant litigation in process. So
Okay.
what I could do was I was able to take any debt or any issue that had been written from another company to a person, whether it was feeding tickets, going for a red light, any kind of debt, and I could challenge it in the court system against the judges. And the judges could not hold me in contempt because I started really learning the laws of the land, what was going on behind the scenes. And so I got to a point where I, one time, lawfully got niece's child out of a hospital who was being threatened to be taken into the care system. We was able to record the whole process and get him out lawfully without me being arrested. And I used to do it with a lot of things. I got nearly arrested for not having car insurance. I did have the car insurance, but because I knew the laws, I was able to know my rights. So it was like a human rights activation. But what would start happening was I turned it into a business, and I bit off more than I could chew because, number one, nobody else knew what I knew. And because I'd taken on so many clients, I didn't have anyone else to help me with things because when you're dealing with corporations won't always play fair with you. They will try and see how much do you know, and they will take it there, even though lawfully they can't. They will if you're ignorant. And so I couldn't be, if I had now 10 clients, I can't be in 10. Once they kind of knew that too many people are getting away with this now, I can't be 10 places at the same time. So they would start doing things to one of my clients, or my client wouldn't listen to me and do something silly, or would go on holiday and not take it seriously. And then you'd have a bailiff at the door and they're like, now help me. It was things like that. And that I was up here, Phil, and I went whoop down because I'd taken on this monster and I was dealing with police. They would try and cuff me. I'd have bailiffs coming down, and it was like I'd judges would threaten to hold me in contempt, but couldn't. It was very intense. And when you go down the political role, you start going through Alice in the Wonderland. I started learning a lot about what's going on in institutions, and it got dark. It got very dark, and people in power. So that was my first crash, and I got rid of it all. And I still to this day get people who try and message me, say, I've got like a parking ticket, please contest. And I'd be like, just the consequences are done. You deal with it now. I can do it and I won't do it. So I took years out after that. Did not go back into it. I had the power to do certain things, and I was like, no, let me just live as straight as I can. The second time I got into politics and I become a political blogger and I started learning again, I got back into it. I loved it. There is something about politics. It's like touch and go. And it started consuming, but it consumed me to a point. The reason why I come out with it was because, and this is might surprise you, might not, but this is what I found from it. Just because somebody will tell you, for example, you have left wing and right wing. I'll make this like really simple. You'll have a person who will say they're a Republican or they'll say they're a right winger, but the only reason why they are doing what they're doing and saying what they're saying is to stir up an audience to get following. And if there was an answer, they would reject it. And it's got nothing to do with the politics. It's actually about their following count more than anything else.
We have politicians here that do that. We call them flip-floppers. Like, for example, we had a judge here in Florida. I'm not going to name his name. He was a judge on a very high-profile case here in Florida. And he had been known as a lifelong Republican. And then when he came time to run for an office, I forget what the office was, he switched to Democrat for a certain type of vote. And they were like, we're not buying it, bud. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That happens quite a bit here in the States as well. It's it's like, okay, you can't play both sides of the fence because it's not working to your advantage now. Yeah, it's 100% what happens here.
Yeah, I was very naive to it. We got to a point where I started growing my own political team. It was called Bring Back Britain. I had a friend of mine, he's ex-military. He was like my rock. He kind of, we was putting petitions together. We got involved in political groups that we needed 100,000 signatures for. And I got invited as press to, I won't name any names, press to a big political organization. And when I got there, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I had to I was with two other friends of mine, two men that really helped me. And I was so surprised by people that claimed they wanted these changes and claimed they were getting the whole crowd so angry. But what they were doing it was more of, there was not just one person, so nobody can get caught out here. There was a handful of people who were more there for getting autographs signed and taking pictures with people than actually wanting to deal with change. And I had to kind of converse. My friends and me and my boys went for lunch, for dinner afterwards. And I said, it makes you feel like you're going crazy. I said, hang on a minute, did that just happen? Is this cognitive dissonance, or do these people, are they after change, or are they trying to keep the drama going for as long as they can to gain followings and audiences? Because bad news sells. So they're stirring up the audience, and we want change, we want this, and or the paedophile gangs and the grooming gangs needs to stop. Okay, here's an answer to your problem. They didn't want it. It really broke my heart. It shocked
Well,
me. It shocked
if
me.
here's the problem, that when you come up with a solution to a problem, there's no more problem. It's like
There's no more problem.
yeah, when you cure a disease, you've just lost your business. You've just lost your clientele base. So it's like, I think in my last episode we talked about the homeless epidemic here in like places like California and in some other states. People are getting paid to handle this problem, but they're not fucking handling it. They're making $250,000 a year. Of course they're not gonna fix it. That's like going to a mechanic to have your car fixed and they break something else to keep you coming back.
Yeah. That's exactly like the way you word it is, because to this day I find it hard to deal with. It surprised me because when I first got into the blogging, like I said, I blew up quite a lot of people wanted me to run for MP at a point. I was being a councillor. They wanted me to be a councillor for reform. They wanted me to go for I was getting people messaging me saying, would you run for MP? My heart was so in it. And
Right.
when I come across people that I wouldn't say look up to, because I don't look up to anyone, but I thought had the same mindset as I did. And when I look at what's actually going on and people actually being a bit deceived, that broke my heart. It broke my heart. I couldn't carry on doing what I was doing, and I gave everything up. And because it was quite risky what I was doing, and I would get phone calls from people saying, you better stop, because a lot of the things I was doing, I was kind of, because in this country, I don't know about your country, but here, if you speak the truth and what's going on around the world, you're deemed as racist or xenophobic. I don't know what xenophobic, that's a new word, or Islamophobic. But I had a bit of an advantage being mixed race, because the racism word wasn't sticking as much with it wasn't my viewpoints, it was me speaking the truth. And so I had leverage, and I was a female. So I had that as well. I'm not a white English man. So white English man is what the system is trying to eradicate. That is what the system is trying to bring down. We don't want that. We want this multiculturalism, and we're going to try and wrap it up as good when it's evil. And
Right.
so because I don't care about my skin color. I don't care about my sexuality. I don't care about if I'm a man or a woman. I just care about the truth. I was getting a following pretty fast. And I've even witnessed people that like were started jumping on that because they were black. They were jumping on the meat wagon. Oh, I can get followers this way. I don't agree with I don't actually agree with this, but because I'm black and I'm saying right wing stuff, people are following me, and then they're trying to advertise their fashion brand, their fashion line. It had nothing to do with the politics. It was all to do with, how can I use this to my advantage to gain money? And I can't be in that. I gave it up. And no,
Well, that's because you have integrity, from what it sounds like. You know what I mean? It's so we have a saying here in the States: is jumping on somebody's bandwagon. That means that they were trying to ride your coattails and use you as a mouthpiece to get them where they needed to be. And that's the thing, is like when people feel that they have, or someone has, perceived power, they want to latch onto it, and it just become like a succubus where they just want to, and just hang on to it and never. I don't know why I made that stupid face. Sorry, but it's they just want to latch onto it and not let go, and then bleed it for what it's worth. And that's not being the truth. Here in the States will get you banned, canceled, whatever you want to call it, pretty quick. I mean,
yeah,
I don't. Um, And that's the only thing I know how to do is to tell the truth. I mean, not I am human. I have lied in the past. You don't do it so much where you compromise your integrity. And I think that that's when you get into that politic sphere of things, that's when you have to start compromising. But on the flip side of that, you were getting a taste of what's behind the veil. Like I'm just a civilian, you know? So I don't know what our government knows. And sometimes that's a good thing, but a lot of times it's bad. And I know you were talking about Islamophobia and stuff. I wanted to pick your brain about how you feel about the immigration issue in the UK at the moment with the things that are happening there.
Well, this is the reason why I got taken down from. We have in England websites where you're able to create your own petitions, and we had to get to 100,000. One of them was change.org, where I used that for my petitions in the sense of, because I understand the laws of the land, and because anybody can, if they're well informed, like you have your constitution, we have the Magna Carta.
Right.
And so I was able to use the Magna Carta to create a petition to explain and educate those who are in England that what is going on in terms of having, like with Sadiq Khan is our mayor of London. We have many now politicians in forms of power that if you started understanding your history and your culture and where it comes from and using the power of the Magna Carta, what is being done unlawfully, because you cannot have any foreign entity go into power into the Houses of Parliament through Section 8 of the Magna Carta, and it stands. You cannot change that. And I know this because I've built a career in this, and I would challenge judges and they would try and hold me in contempt and they couldn't, because of the laws that I'm standing on. These laws are God's laws. And so you can't contend them. The judges are not higher than God. So this is where the Constitution comes from. This is what I was saying to my dad and I were speaking earlier. And I was talking about America, and he was like, why does everybody say that England, every time talk about England, they talk about America afterwards? We've got more in common with German than we have in England, America. I said, because America and England are like brother and sister, because their constitution comes from the Magna Carta. That's where they're getting their constitution from. The Magna Carta is so strong, we're not applying it. So the entities that we have now, when we have even Rishi Sunak, who was their, not the Labour, you've got the Conservative MP, you shouldn't be having Muslims and foreign entities making decisions in the House of the Parliament based on the fact that this is a Christian country, based on the Magna Carta. So what's happening is what they've done the same thing with racism. Racism and Islamophobia are trigger words because it puts fear in people because they fear to be judged. So if you turn around and tell the truth and say, hang on a minute, this is wrong in Section 8 of the Magna Carta, right here, you cannot change this law. You could not have a foreign entity in here making decisions and change and putting mosques everywhere. This is unlawful. These people can go to prison. They're using Islamophobia, because then you just shut up. You don't challenge what's being said in front of you. They've done the same thing with racism. Now, you cannot tell the truth about when you're dealing with gangs out there and shootings and black on black crime, because you're a racist. It's a trigger. It's just, for me, these words are spells and don't work on me. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm just about truth.
Yeah.
So what it is a lot of people, when I was doing political blogging, we went into a lot about the Muslim faith and what's going on. And what I found, I said it to myself the other day, I was in bed talking to myself because someone contacted me who's now doing what I was doing. And I said, you know what? Every person that I come across and challenged who was Muslim did not understand their own Quran. When I would challenge them about it, they didn't even realize scriptures were in there, because they're just being born as Muslims, but they're not naturally, they're either not studying it or not understanding of certain terminologies and words. And so it's a spiritual warfare more than it is anything else. And it's keeping people in fear, and a lot of it to blame. And this, I was going to put it on one of my accounts today about this, because I don't like talking about politics because it triggers me. It's the church's fault. that this is happening. Don't blame Muslim people. You cannot blame the gangs. You cannot blame the traffickers, it's the church's fault. And if you look at the church and when they're in House of the Parliament, it's not just the House of the Parliament, you've also got the House of Lords. These are people from the church making decisions. Now, if you're willing to compromise your religious beliefs, your faith, that's why the countries are going where they're going, because they're not standing on constitution. They're not standing on the Magna Carta. So it's going to happen until the churches change, because if the churches don't change, they're going to keep creating immoral people. Immoral people will only ever vote in immoral leaders. We're voting them in. We have the power. It's power
Yeah.
in people.
So do you guys have, like, for the Magna Carta, do you do amendments to it like we have? Like, for example, like we have the First Amendment, Second Amendment, and all that, but they've been trying to change those two amendments here for years, especially the second, because that's the one that gives us the right to bear arms. And people will use whatever they can to try and subvert that. But it says it in there. It says, shall not be infringed. It means you're not going to change it. But we have a similar one in ours too, that no foreign born can be president. We've had foreign borns hold public office here, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the governor of California, which then he tried to get them to amend the Constitution so he could run for president. And now there's a guy in New York who is a Muslim. He's trying to become a mayor of New York, I believe. And yeah, and I hear he's quite off the rails with some of the stuff. I'm not a super political guy, but I guess you could say that I am right of center on most things. And so I still I vote Republican mostly, but I have a lot of social liberal views. But like, I think we should take care of some of the poor, but not do it in perpetuity. I think that you should be able to help people when you can. Overspending and making it to where we can't survive as a country, where we're dependent on foreign aid a lot or whatever, that stuff starts to drive me nuts. But I don't know if there's a clear path to be able to fix what's going on in the UK with the immigration. I think it's going to have to come from the people, from you guys.
Well, I stand on what you say. I'm not, people think when I talk, I'm far right, and I'm not. I'm not far anything, because when you're too extreme in one, there's a problem. And when you're too extreme in the other, there's a problem. I'm not for socialism, but I'm also not for capitalism. You have to have a fine balance. There has to be, because if I have no money, I can't help another person. But whereas if you're pushing socialism on me, socialism makes it very hard to be able to create and produce. It gets rid of your incentive. So you need an equal balance of both. You don't need capitalism where we're just stripping the planet of everything it has, and you have only the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's too extreme. But on the other hand, you can't then rob a person who isn't using their own gifts and abilities to go out and create, because we're all made the same. So I'm no different to Donald Trump or the tramp in the street. We're all the same. We all bleed the same. However, some of us tap into our skills and our God-given abilities, and some of us choose not to. And I don't believe in handouts. When I see no, so when I see a homeless person on the street, I never give them money. If you're hungry and you want food, that's different. But even then, I know a homeless guy who lives near me, near my nearest supermarket, and he's getting a bit too comfortable with the handouts. And I showed my son, and I said, "You see him? He's not desperate enough, because you keep giving him and giving him and giving him. You're not giving it. You're making him too comfortable in his hell. You're giving him too much comfortability because he knows he's getting handouts. All right. So he has no reason to change.
Exactly.
You have to be in the middle. I'm neither left nor right. And I think that's what I learned about political blogging. I'm definitely not left, but I can understand at the same time. But I'm like you in the sense of how you've explained it. But I'm definitely not for stripping the land and greed. And I'm willing to wear four t-shirts for the week and a jumper. I don't need brand names. I'm not, so that's kind of where I stand with it all. But for this country here, I think that it's their lack of knowledge, their lack of wisdom, and England's lost its backbone. And I always say, and this is why I left politics as well, because what I learned about politics is It starts at home. Politics starts at home. And if you do not understand who you are as, let's start with men, because it's always, between men and women. Men are this, men are that, women are this, women are that. I always say it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? We keep blaming each other, but who's first? But if we dealt with men, I say men because they would be known as the leaders. Politics starts at home, and you've got a lot of homes where men aren't even capable of standing up to their own mothers. So if you can't even stand up to your own mother when she's trying to get involved in your marriage, get involved with your kids, get involved here, playing her role too much, not cutting the cord, and you can't tell her to take a seat, how are you going to stand up for anything bigger than that? How are you going to stand up for these big giants out here, these big political parties who are trying to rob your kids, tax you to death? You can't stand up for the things that are going on in your house. You've got a lot
Well,
of people. Sorry.
no, I was interrupting you. Sorry, go ahead.
You've got a lot of people that don't do critical thinking. I've noticed in England, I said to my friend, I don't know if protests work, because all people do in England is protest, but I've never seen a protest happen and something actually work from it. They protested with the farmers who are all getting their jobs getting taken off of it. They all went down with their tractors. Did anything happen? No. They protest recently in Epping because of the more of these illegal immigrants come in, and a little girl was sexually assaulted in an area near mine, and they've all gone and protest. That's it. But no one's doing anything. And group heard, okay, I'll do it if you do it. I'll do it if you do. It's fear. So if they don't start looking inwards and start actually getting back into the spiritual aspect of things, and where the Magna Carta come from, who God really is, and not what the church is telling people and all that soppy stuff, and all who he really is and who it is to be a conservative and a Republican, and what the truth, it's done. It's finished.
Well, like we alluded to earlier, we live in a society now, both of our countries, where the truth will get you at least canceled, possibly killed. There's a guy who's a YouTuber. I think his name is Ian Carroll, and he does a lot of things that I agree with because it's black and white. There's not a lot of his opinion involved, but I mean, you can tell that he's coming from a place of truth. And I think in this country, your country, and a bunch of others, we have gotten away from that foundation of being able to tell the truth. Like, we have to wear kid gloves, and we have to be this idea of it's okay. Like that guy at your shop near you, or your your local market, people have coddled him into this false, well, maybe it's not false, maybe it's real, but he doesn't have to worry about. So he's like, oh, you know what? I know this person's going to give me food today. This person will give me food tomorrow. Now I don't have to worry about buying food because it's being given to me. And no, I'm all for giving somebody a hand up. If someone's sitting on a corner at of an intersection and they're begging for money, and you see a car come pick them up at 5 and they go to their house, that's not truthful. That's them deceiving and ripping people off and playing on people's sympathies. That's wrong.
A long time ago, government has slowly but surely started becoming our fathers more than any other time. Before, years ago, we would rely on the church. But what's happened in the church is the liberals have taken over the church and they've feminized God. And now it's just all about, this emotional connection with God. And it's become feminized when really it was all about looking after and being self-sufficient. We can't even grow our own food. Everything we do now, we are reliant on the government. Even when there's a disaster, we don't look at even one another as a community. We look straight to the government. The government's become our father. That's our dad now. Whereas our father before, when you go back, it was the church that would take over and teach people how to be sufficient. That's the whole point. Christianity is all about how to be able to look after yourself so then you can look after the next one. It was never about looking for the government for this. And now when you're in trouble, you don't go to the church, you go to prison. That's what they say about gun crime and gangs, is they say the reason why young men who come from homes with no father in the house, the reason why they go into crime is because subconsciously, psychologically, they're looking for a father. So the police are what telling them off. So they're getting that discipline from the police officers because they've taken it out of the home. So that's where the
Right.
crime's coming from, because they're actually looking for that father figure. It's looking for that authority is what it's looking for. But we're not challenging other authorities, which is we should be considering, hang on a minute, you know, I feel very uncomfortable with having the government look after me. And that's where I've been working on my journey for years to get out of it. And I'm still working on it because I like to be completely self sufficient. And I think most people in America and England too, since the civil rights movement, it's really got worse, are looking for the government to look after them. And that's what the civil rights movement was all about in the first place. It was to get the government in more into people's lives. They now even look after, they teach your children whatever you want. You have no say. You have
No,
no say
but
in it.
yeah, no, I don't have children. That was a very clear choice for me when I was younger. I knew it. I grew up in a house of 9 children, and we were incredibly impoverished, and I didn't want to put myself into that predicament. And plus, I'm a little selfish, and I want to be able to go and travel and do all that shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you can't do that with a kid, but sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult. You know, like I hear parents constantly. I can't say constantly, but there's a fair amount of bullshit that the schools are throwing at kids these days, and it's like, let them be kids. There was a big problem of LGBT teachers talking about their sexuality and incorporating that into their schooling. And I'm like, listen, I don't care what you do, just don't get any on me. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to hear about it. And a 5-year-old that's in kindergarten, or, they shouldn't be worrying about anything like that. They need to worry about how to color, how to, learn their shapes, for God's sakes. And
Mm.
I'm not going to shit on anybody's lifestyle, because that's just not who I am. I mean, you can do whatever you do as long as it's two consenting adults. I don't really care. But you don't fuck with old people, and you don't fuck with children. That's just for me, you know?
Big time. I've got a
Yeah,
thing about the innocent. You don't mess with the innocent. And I think that in our country, or in England, a lot of people, a lot of parents aren't aware of this, but they introduced, this is when I started getting involved with my son in his school. They introduced something called the Christopher Winter Project into schools, where they wanted to start teaching children from any age from year 4, was it, onwards, which would make them from 7 to 8 years old, learn about sex education. And when you go on to the Christopher Winter Project, it's a picture of two men canoodling over a baby. So obviously it's two homosexuals canoodling over a baby. And for me, my spirit just felt wrong about it, because I just don't think that you need to. We had a meeting about it all. And it was not only that they were going to start teaching the children, it was things to do with like smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. And it just felt very unfair for a parent like myself. I don't expose my son to these kind of things. Why would I have to then, because other parents are deciding to not be consciously aware of maybe looking after themselves in areas because of the kids, that my son has to be exposed to these things? I don't think that any child should be. I don't think that children should be exposed to what two heterosexual couples are doing, let alone
exactly.
to homosexual couples. It's things that when I was young, I remember drawing chalk on the floor and playing hopscotch and learning how to do the shapes right. That's what I was being exposed to. Like, and then we used to play this paper game where you'd
Oh yeah,
have to,
the little
the little
thing where you'd
triangle
ask it. Yeah,
thing.
that's stupid. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'd be like, how do you make this? It's like that origami kind of. That's what I remember being focused on. I never needed to deal with heavy issues like my gender or am I gay or straight. It's just too heavy for any child to be exposed to. So I always say the devil's in the details. There's nothing to debate about. It's common sense. What's happening now? It's common sense people versus people that are mentally retarded, because these things aren't making any sense. Things to me
right,
have to make sense, and it's the war is against the mentally retarded versus people who have common sense,
right.
and
And that's
common
for
sense isn't common.
no, it's becoming incredibly uncommon. Like here, there's up until recently, and still a little bit, there's the debate if a man can get pregnant or not. Like if your argument is defeated by a 12th grade biology book, it's not an argument. It's like if there's, I mean, what they're saying is that that a woman that's transitioning to a man can be pregnant. I'm like, well, yeah, because it's a woman, and it's but it's this psychological gobbledygook that
The
I
whole
can't.
agenda, the whole agenda is about proving God is wrong. That's why they do it. They want to
Yeah.
prove that God is wrong. Because if God made you man, and then
Uh-huh.
because the devil does everything that God does in reverse. So the devil is all about sacrifice, and God is all about sacrifice. So if you're born a man and you want to change as a woman, that means you have to sacrifice the identity God gave you. So you're basically committing suicide. It's spiritual suicide because now you want to become a deformed version of yourself. And it's like a form of Satanism because it's anything that people do like that they want to prove God's wrong. That's the whole point of it. That's what it is behind it all, to prove God's wrong. And so, no, I'm a female. I'm a female. You can't argue with it because it's a spiritual problem. There's something going on in their psyche, whether it's trauma or abuse or something
Mhm.
happens to them where now they are living a life of delusion.
Well, yeah.
I've always wanted to have a debate with a transgender because I've always wanted to ask the question, I've always wanted to know this, how can you know what it feels like to be a woman if you've never been one?
I mean,
That's, I've,
that's a
never,
very.
I've always wanted to know that. If you've never been one, how do you know what it feels like to be one if you've never
Mhm.
been one? I've always wanted
Right.
to know, and that would be my only argument to it because you're not arguing with me, you're arguing what God's telling you. And I know I keep mentioning God because I can't help it because that's where it's common sense and it makes me feel stable because the world is so unstable right now. It's like my shining star. It's like, just keep your mind straight because I need common sense. And it's like, that's where I get it from. So anything that's not showing me that or reflecting that, I think that's why I bring it up a lot. And I'm like, well, I have to refer to that because this doesn't make sense. Sometimes they'll try and use intellect to try and make themselves sound correct, and it just sounds mad. It's madness that's going on.
Well, like I said previously a little bit ago, I have no problems, with somebody wants to transition, good for them. I don't care. I don't, I hope you get the help that you need, Godspeed, all that stuff. But my thing is, don't expect me to partake in the delusion because I'm not going to. I'm not going to. And listen, I do my best. As one of the tenets of my faith, I have to love everybody, and I do. I try. I do my best to. I try to love my fellow man the best way I can. But sometimes just praying for people helps, and like just wish them the best as you can, because I don't listen. I don't agree with it, and I don't have to. That's the thing. And for their life to go on and for them to be happy, I don't have to agree with their lifestyle. We can agree to disagree, but we can still be friends. You know what I mean? I
You're
don't.
not Sorry to cut you.
No, you're fine.
Do you not believe that you said, you love it, but love is telling someone the truth and not lying to them?
If somebody asks me a hard question like that, I say you need to go think about that for a minute and make sure you want my answer,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm gonna give you the truth from a scientific biological aspect. I'm not gonna give you the truth from a and I hate to call it delusion, but it's or whatever's going on, whether it's body dysmorphia or what have you. But
yeah.
I think there needs to be, me. I hate to keep bringing it up, but I have to for this. It makes a point. Me working in surgery, when people come to us and they want a gastric bypass for weight loss surgery, they have to go through counseling. It's at least 6 months of counseling before we go take out part of their stomach or change its function. And now, I'm not saying that people should, if you want to and you got the money, do it. I don't care. But understand that down the road, things may change and you may change your mind. And by then it's too late. We have two different types of weight loss surgery. One's called a Roux-en-Y, which is, it's way too technical, but they rewire the stomach and it just makes it to where you don't absorb nutrients. The other one is called a gastric sleeve. It's just where we just cut up. I'm obviously simplifying this. It's where we just cut out the big part of the stomach or part of the stomach, and it makes it smaller so you don't eat as much. The sleeve is reversible. The Roux-en-Y, really, it isn't. So when and after you've gotten to that, so that's the kind of, I'm trying to do apples to oranges here. I know when it comes to gender and weight loss, but it's the only way that I can quantify it in my brain. Like I said, I want everybody to be healthy and happy, and whatever that takes. I'm not going to be a part of the delusion. Does that make sense?
I completely understand what you're saying because obviously you know, you're probably well aware of, number one, the suicide rate of the people that do decide to transition is
Hmm.
so high. I don't even know the percentages, but I know it's very high, the suicide rates. And I can relate what you're saying with the weight loss surgery, because I was actually I was thinking this morning to actually write a book. I was considering it as work. I was like, oh, I don't know if I would, but because it's been a phenomenon for me, because I've lost at the moment. I've been on this weight loss journey. It's part of like of my social media accounts where I also talk about like mindset. I talk about nutrition because I was born big, and I've lost at the moment over 30 pounds, and I've got to lose another 10 to 20 pounds. So that's how much I'd like to lose. We're looking at about 10 pounds. I've got to a point right now where I think this is the smallest I've ever been. I'm very tall. So where I am, I'm on like a 12 stone trajectory. And a part of me doesn't want to change. A part of me, there's a fear behind, because I'm still losing it, but I've slowed down, but I've kind of done it on purpose. And I keep reflecting on it. And I'm saying to myself, you've got fear behind it. Even though you're doing it, I'm kind of a little bit purposely self-sabotaging, because I was saying it to my son the other day. I was like, I don't really want to meet her. I'm not ready to meet her. There's a fear behind it, and I never thought there would be, because I've always identified as being bigger. I was born like big. I was born like 9 pounds two or something, and then I just always was the biggest out of all my family members. And this transition for me is becoming it. It shocked me because it was quite a scary transition, because any change that you're having, you are changing your identity. So if I can experience quite uncomfortable emotions, losing 10 pounds, what do you think you're going to go through changing genders? Because I can go put the weight back on if this is too uncomfortable for me. Because I don't know. I said to my son, if I end up losing the weight and it just doesn't look nice and I think I've lost too much, I'll just put on the 10 pounds back. I just want to know, it's a challenge. I'm challenged, but can I do it? Can I not? But I can kind of go back and go where I feel comfortable. But this has been I didn't think I would go through this, psychologically scared of losing this woman. I'm actually scared of losing her. I've been born with this woman who's always been bigger. I relate to her. I know her. And who am I now? So to go through that, and that's weight, and I can choose much easier to change genders and cut something off, and you can't go back. I understand why you would lose your mind, because
I feel that that could be what I consider a permanent solution for what could be a temporary problem. I got a bunch of tattoos, right? That's a permanent decision. I have a couple on my legs that I regret, and I'm like, I can get those whited out and put something else there. But and obviously I'm not in that community. I don't know the ins and outs of it, and I'm not pretending to, but from an outsider looking in, this is how I look at it. Like, I don't see why there's a rush to gender reassignment surgery. I don't understand that. But I guess if you were constantly waking up every day feeling like you're in the wrong body, and you just probably just want a little bit of relief from what's going on, in your head, and you think that'll fix it, and then come to find out it won't, that would be devastating, I would think.
do you think that it's a trend? Do you think that people are jumping on a bandwagon?
100%. There was this guy in Texas here. His wife wanted their kid to be transgendered, and he's dead against it. And so she moved to California, put him on puberty blockers, and he's still having to pay for this kid. And now that she's in a different state, I'm sure you're familiar with California and how far left it is. He's in this battle with his ex-wife because she's doing it for fucking internet clout. It's not a lot of these people that, like, that want their kid. I don't not they want their kids to be transgender or not, but sometimes here in the States, it is thrust upon children so their parents look cool because it's trendy and neat. That kind of shit. A young boy will wear a skirt or a dress just to play Barbie with his sister or something like that. The next thing you know, one of the parents, be it the mother or the father, well, little Timmy's trans. We need to look into that. No, he just wore a dress for 5 seconds. That's the stuff that should not be an indicator of them being a transgendered or having any leaning towards that.
I'm very big, and I raised my son on being an individual. And the other day, I think I'm a bit extreme with it sometimes, but the other day we were going through films, and he said, Mum, can I just see the trailer for Big Mama's house? And I showed him it, but we spoke about watching it because even though it's something small, it's something kids are very impressionable. And I was like, you need to remember that that is a man in a woman's dress. And even though we saw it as back in the day when I wasn't so alert, oh, it's nothing, it's funny. I think when you keep watching things like Mrs. Doubtfire and Big Mama's House, it's impressionable. And then you start relating it to cool or funny or not realizing. I don't know how impressionable he is. And because I don't know how impressionable he is, I'd just rather be safe than sorry. So I
Uh-huh.
think I have got a bit more because I remember once in the 90s, it was the coolest thing we were all doing was wearing lip gloss with glitter in it, having flat bums and thin eyebrows. And we were all doing that. And then we changed. And now we all want to look like Kim Kardashian and we want to. And so we are all so impressionable. And
Uh-huh.
I think sometimes movies and songs and TV, we're watching it thinking it's entertainment, but we're taking so much more in than what I think our minds are even aware of understanding. We think it's innocent things we're doing, even as an adult sometimes. Now I've kind of spent a lot of time away from it all. I go back into it and I can see where I was being brainwashed. I can see where I was being indoctrinated. And I'm like, I can now see how impressionable I was. And I think now this has become LGQBT plus whatever it is has become, I think you've got of Hollywood is very left.
Oh, 100% here. It's Hollywood here is ran by the left for the most part. I mean, we're starting to be this trend. There's a network. It's called the Angel Studios, I believe. They did the TV show on Prime called The Chosen, which is about it's a day to day life of Christ. Balance is key in everything. The scale tilts one way too far, imbalance happens and things get nutty and squirrely and ridiculous. So, but back to the whole entertainment thing, I forget who the emperor of Rome was that said it, but he said, give them bread and circuses. What that means is give them food and distraction, and you can get away with whatever you want, right? And so that's where we're at now. You get home from your 9 to 5 or whatever you work. You click on the TV, you listen to whatever talking heads on CNN or Fox or the BBC or whatever, and that's where people get their information from. And then they just go back to work and regurgitate it. They don't think for themselves anymore. They don't want to think. They want everything spoon fed. And everybody wants to believe the uncomfortable lie or the comfortable lie. It's
It's
like if
very
you give,
comfortable.
yeah, it is. And it's like, so, I could sit here and we have limitless entertainment. But now we have smartphones, we have limitless information that we don't use. Like we can learn about everything if we choose to, but most people don't. That's the reason I do the show, is so I can learn and understand things. You know, there's no such thing as my truth. There's just the truth. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that the way that I live my life is the best for anybody else, and I'm not saying that the way that somebody else lives is good for me. So we're all trying to find our way in the world. We're all trying to figure out who we are, and it's not easy to do because we're constantly getting inundated with societal pressures and whatever else. But I feel at the end of the day, you just got to do what's right by your family, take care of the ones you love, and try to help somebody along the way. That's about the best you can do in life, I think. And but that's how I feel about it. And the tenets of most religions is don't hurt anybody. I have not studied every religion, obviously, but you have people that are radical in any way. They tend just they only care about their point and not the truth. Does that make sense?
Well, I disagree with religions saying don't hurt anybody because in the
Mhm.
Quran, there
Yeah,
actually are scriptures that say you
that's
can hurt
true.
people. But also, I had this debate with my dad once because when I mentioned that to him, and he's very liberal, and he was saying that Christians went into places all the time and hurt people. And I'm saying, yeah, but I'm talking about what it says in this. Does it say that in scripture, or was that the person was that man doing that? Because the difference between man saying they're doing things in God's name and them just doing it themselves. It doesn't say anywhere there to go around and do the things that people were doing. So some people like to kind of play God themselves and they think that they're harming people in the name of God. They think
Right.
they're doing good. They think what they're doing, when you have people going and, suicide bombing and doing whatever they're doing, they think they're doing that as an act of righteousness. and they think that good is evil and evil is good, and that is the problem. So people will do things in the sake of God's, in the sake of God's name. They think they're being martyred.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. When I was a younger man, I was in my early teens, like 14, like mid-teens, whatever. I had had a big problem with the Crusades because I didn't understand them. And then once I did the research, I'm like, that's why it happened. We didn't pick that fight. The Christians didn't. Somebody else did. But that's a whole nother topic. But so I want to kind of
Yeah,
change.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change gears a little bit. This just popped into my head this minute. You can laugh at this if you want to, it probably will, but what is the current feeling on the royal family in the UK right now? I mean, because I know that they're not really in power, but they have some sort of influence on Parliament. Is that how that works, or no?
They gave up. Oh, God, you're making me reminisce now. But the last I ever went into the royal family, they had given up all powers now. They're literally now there as a figurine for like tourists to come in and just to
Okay.
buy, go visit the castle. But they have rebuked all powers. They're nowhere, was talking about today, they're nowhere near as powerful as they were years ago when you had like William the Conqueror. They've given up all powers completely
Okay.
now.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, because we was talking about them today, because obviously we've got King Charles now. You wouldn't even, for me in my world anyway, I wouldn't even know he exists. There is just no real. It is more for now, just like the English are known for scones and tea. Well,
Right.
we're known for a royal family. England's been invaded, and it's already happened. And so, for me, I spent a lot of time fighting. But when I gave up political blogging, I got in contact with a minister from your country. He's from America.
Mhm.
He's well known. He's quite popular. Is it Jesse Lee Peterson?
I'm
Don't
not
know if you've heard
familiar,
of him.
but
Well,
no.
anyway, I contacted him. I was desperate, really desperate, and I didn't know what to do. And he said something and it stuck with me. And he said, "You know what, Sabrina? You can't save the world. You can't
Right.
save the world." And I think I had that burden that I wanted everybody, to save the world and come this way and don't, and, go in the wrong way. And I learned through the journey that in a selfish way, I just want to focus on my happiness and my peace. And anybody that sees that light will want to know, what am I doing? They'll kind of come my way, but like, what are you doing to be able to be that way? Instead of me trying to push people up a mountain and they don't want to go. That was
Yeah,
really hard to let go of, because
it is.
I was like, I can't let go of that. But once that's something that stuck with me, that you can't, if people want to go that way, that letting that go of control, if people want to go that way,
Mhm.
blindly, and you're telling them there's a cliff. I even told people about them digitally, with money becoming digital. They're already eradicating all the banks in England. All the banks are going. They're going. They're gone. And I've been saying it for years. People were calling me crazy. And I'm saying, I'm telling you that it's going to be digital. This is what they're doing. Now people are waking up. That was over 15 years ago. I've kind of I've got this control. Part of me, I don't want to go into religion. I don't want to. But I think when you go into politics, you always do, but you can't really help it. They make decisions together. They should. But I said to myself the other day, if the Bible is true and this is all prophecy, then what's going to happen is going to happen. With things happening, more knowledge, more information out there. This has all been prophesied already. So my job is to find that peace and know that I know what I know,
Mhm.
and hopefully people see that light, and that's what I can do. But apart from everything else, I think with the Muslims and what's going on with the boats and them coming over and they want that Sharia law. I know they've already done it in Germany and a few other countries. I think the ban of the burqa will come. That's what I think is going to
Think
happen.
so?
And I think it will happen in America too.
Well, it kind of already has. We have two major cities. Well, the one that comes to mind off the top of my head is Dearborn, Michigan. If you feel like it, just Google it, and they have call to prayer and everything there. Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what this country was founded upon, was freedom of religion. But I don't think any religion, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, should be able to take over a whole town. And
Well,
this is what's happened.
the
Yeah.
one that is the one world order. So when you had, I don't know if you heard years ago, they don't use the word as much, one world order. It's a one world religion. So this is what they want to do. But I just personally don't, if it, if it, I can't see it happening. But I've got because I was watching some guy, he was an ex-Satanist, and he was talking about, and he prophesied that, and I didn't like it. And I was like, I don't like prophecy like that. And you're saying that, Muslims are going to take over. And I've heard Muslims say that they believe they're going to take over. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I actually do think there is going to be a huge ban of the burqa, and that it's going to be banned in many countries. And I think they're going to have to go back to their Eastern what. That's what I think. I could be a hopeless romantic.
Here in Florida, I believe, there was a woman that she wanted to have her identification with the burqa. That defeats the whole purpose of identification. It's a picture ID,
This is
So
what happens when there's not consequences for people's behavior. They're trying to push it and push it and put it. How much can I get away with is what
yeah.
they're
Well,
actually saying.
it's the old saying, give somebody an inch and they'll take a mile.
They'll take a mile. And I
Yeah.
think what's going to happen in this country, if there isn't a ban on the burqa, we would be looking at a civil war. I'm not saying that's going to
No,
happen.
it's just hypotheticals.
Hypothetically speaking, what I could see happening is if there wasn't a ban on the burqa, it would be a civil war. And if there was a civil war, that would create the ban on the burqa. I can't see, the Muslim faith, and this is me, I'm talking from personal belief, has no power. I think people give it power by talking about how bad they're doing this, they're doing that. But for me, they have no power at all. They're already been dealt, the situation has been dealt with, and it will happen in due course. I'm a bit of an idealist, always have been, but it works for me. But I honestly don't believe that Muslims have as much power as they think they have. They've been around for years and years and years and years. And they've never got to the place where they have this one world order thing happening, this Sharia law. It just wouldn't work. They're so primitive. And you could not, even just for safety issues. Imagine if every woman wore burqas, the crime rates would go because people would just take advantage.
And it's not even that. Like they haven't gotten face to face with a blue-haired fucking feminist here in America yet. You know what I mean? Like you get one of those Subaru driving lesbians, that's not going to happen. She's going to kick somebody's ass. You know what I mean?
It's not going to happen.
This is the kind of reason why we had the Second Amendment. I alluded to it earlier, but actually, the Second Amendment is to fight a tyrannical government because we fought a war for 2 years. That being said, I just I don't know how bad it's going to get. I don't pretend to know. I just try to be as content and as happy as I can in the moment. And
that's what it's all about. I think that's what it's all about. Sorry.
But I try not to worry about what my neighbor does too much. I look at it like as long as they're healthy, doing their thing, and their house isn't burning down, I don't really need to get involved in their life too much.
I think that's what the times we're at. I don't know for you, but for me, I get this vibe that, well, for me, I've very isolated myself from whatever else. I'm in my own little bubble. So it's like, you know what? Like I said, I'm not no one's savior. I'm not everybody's got their own path. I'm here on my path, and that's what I'm focusing on. And I'm just focused on the next step. And that's it. I'm kind of like, as much as I have very strong beliefs, I'm not pushing my belief on anybody. I think it's invasive. If you choose to go that way, I like debates. I can debate with you all day, but I just think that's fun and it's way of learning. And I like to get into people's minds and how they think and how they see things, but I'm not pushing I know, all I know is I'm thriving and I'm going to carry on. I'm living in peace and I'm going to carry on going that way. That's it. But you can say what you want about the West. They like to say a lot about the West and we're this and we're that. But I think when push comes to shove, I think the West are people, they're not to be played with. It's not going to happen. And I think that social media doesn't help because all they do is put fear, fear, fear. This is happening, grooming gang, this, shooting votes. But I don't care about all of that because when it comes down to the real stuff, it's not happening. It's not. And I think that's why I'm kind of just, all right, cool, whatever. I've pulled away from the politics now. I keep my ears to the ground. Sometimes I'll have convos like this as well. We'll get into it, and that's enough for me. I've been in the pit, and you don't want to be in the pit of politics. You're dealing with
Oh,
power
it's
hungry madmen. I'm telling you.
I would
Yeah.
rather I'd rather sit on a pine cone.
Yeah, man, 100%. You're dealing with a lot of power hungry people. It makes you very paranoid. You don't know who you can trust, who you can't, and people have got their own little agendas. It's like that in life. So to come against it in politics is something that, you know, I always say moral people will always, like I said, will always vote in a moral leaders. Get people right. I used to say this to my mum all the time because my mum's very like an animal. I love save the whales, and I used to say to her, "Mum, save the humans, and the whales will get saved." You
Yeah, well,
know,
that's the people that I mean. Don't get me wrong, I do love a good cute animal, like a little red panda or something like that. But that animal, its life does not have more value than a human being. And but it's like we used to have. It was a organization here called Greenpeace, and they were all about saving the whales and all that stuff. But I mean, how about worrying about your fellow man, but make sure they have enough too? You know what I mean? Like, make sure everybody has enough. That no one needs excess. No one needs but the problem is the ones that earn it, like, people were giving Elon Musk a bunch of shit about all of his money. He earned it, I mean, well, no, he didn't. I'm like, okay, but whatever. He's got all these companies. Some of them are profitable, some of them not so much. Or Trump for that matter, or anybody that they feel that once they become a top earner, that, well, you should like really, like spread the wealth. Like, no, they shouldn't. Like someone, I hate their coffee, but it's Starbucks here in the States. The CEO, he was like worth a couple of $1 billion, and this Senate committee, they were grilling him. I'm like, well, he's like, listen, I grew up poor, government assistance. I made something of myself, and that's the thing, is that anybody can do anything they choose to. They just have to have the will and the want to. I've made my career for 20 plus years in the operating room, as most people know, because I keep talking about it. Sorry, folks, but I enjoy it. That's how I help people. I mean, granted, I am getting paid for it, but still, you're there when somebody has their worst moment, and you just say, hey, I'm here to help. What can I do? I'm helping the doctor to help them. But that being said, people choose not to grow. They stay stagnant for a reason. It's either out of fear, out of comfort, out of whatever else. And that's and in order comfort is a place where dreams die. I think that's a quote that I remember reading. And it's just, you have to get out of your comfort zone. On this show for me is out of my comfort zone. I'm still learning how to edit and how to not interrupt and not talk too fast, because I'm a mile a minute kind of guy. But there's nothing wrong with taking a step back and learning something new to challenge yourself to make you grow as a person. And some people just don't want to do that. They want to stay. They want the status quo.
the people that don't want to grow are always the people that have the most to say about others, and I
Exactly.
find that why do we only point at rich people and tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing with their money, when we don't point back at ourselves and ask the question that why are we still broke, dictating what other people should be doing?
Yeah,
Why am
100%.
I in
Yeah,
this? Because it's pointing
exactly.
fingers, and they say when you point fingers, you've always got three fingers pointing back. And I've always experienced the most problems I've had with people are people that are doing nothing with themselves. They're the most critical, the most judgmental. They are the ones that aren't even trying. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm the same as you, but I've got to a point where I've put myself in so many uncomfortable situations. I'm starting to now love new challenges, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like now it's gone from fear to excitement, and I'm like, well, what is coming next? You start to like, it's like when you've never surfboard before, when you've never done it before, you're full of fear. But once you become a professional, the next wave that comes, you're just kind of, there's an excitement that comes with it. Because I had an old friend, and she's very socialist, and she had a lot to say about people with money, but yet she doesn't have any, but she's pointing fingers. And I say, but don't you ever, all that judgment you're giving to the other person, don't you take that inwards? Don't you look at yourself and think what you could be doing better? Because the person with money can change much more than you could. So if you want to change the world, I've always believed you want to make change, you have to make money. And I think that's why I work so hard, because
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that my son learns not to go into generational poverty and learns how to work hard. It humbles you. It makes you are working hard. And especially when you've got nothing to something, what I don't ever want to lose is I don't want to make money super fast. I like the grind because it keeps me humble, and I wouldn't want to like sell out. You know, I could have made money so many times over, but I would be selling something. Maybe if it's not my morals, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
if I went and stayed in politics, I could have blown up really fast, very easily. I was getting followers through the truckload, and I could have just blown it up, exploited. When I've gone a very slow route with my beauty brand. I'm coming into a platform that people don't know who I am, so I'm like new on the block. On my accounts, I talk about beauty and natural living, and I also talk about mindset. So people are looking at me like, who is this? I'm no one. I'm going very slow. But the reason why I'm happy with that, and you know, I've got other ways of doing things. The reason why I'm happy with it is because I haven't sold out. I haven't sold out my peace of mind. I haven't decided to just, you know what, just make money. It's not about that. It's about following, using the skills that you're given, doing something that you know you're good at, and going to sleep at night knowing you can sleep at night, you know, because there's no point having all of this and you can't sleep, you're on medication, but you've got 10 million in your account. Like you say, it's a balance to everything. Or being so broke, but you're judging others, you're no better. And sometimes I think that people that have nothing, like they're better than people who have got more. More, it's like a paradox sometimes.
You're not wrong. I think that when you have the haves and the have-nots, and it comes to a point to where, well, why can't I have that? Well, because this kind of stuff takes hard work. Like we always used to talk about the opportunities in America. Well, what they don't tell you is it's the opportunity for hard work. That's what it
Mm,
is. It's not,
yeah,
like a friend of mine that was getting a pedicure. He's like, I've been in America now for 6 months. When are they going to start giving me money? He's just like, that's not how that works. It's like you come here and you have the opportunity to work hard to make something of yourself. Now, unfortunately, the American dream is to leave because we're getting priced out of homes here. We're getting priced out of a lot of things. There's no more middle class in America. It's dead and gone. Because, like, just recently, the governor of California, his name is Gavin Newsom, and they had those fires not that long ago in California. He just signed a bill that's going to let all these people come in and grab the land for super cheap. They're not even hiding it anymore. It's literally, and Trump signed an executive order where they couldn't do that, so he's just going to ignore it.
yeah.
So, but I want to kind of ask, since I don't get a lot of Europeans on my show. I see all these videos of, I'll preference it with this. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'm not a super fan. I never have been, but I voted for him because I did it because there was no better options, right? I'm not exactly pleased with how he's doing things now, but it's just because he's not fulfilling his promise on the Epstein list that he said he would. So, but what I always see videos from like Sweden and UK and other places where they're like so I just want to know, from my own morbid curiosity, like you as a person from, England, what is your perception of Trump?
I've seen of him personally so far. I really like him.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's a rare opinion. But I like him. The Epstein stuff, like I said, there's a lot in it, you know. And I think the guy will get grilled because obviously the position he's in. But you know, there's reasons behind everything. But everything that I've seen so far, I can't flaw him. When people say they don't like him, I always do ask back, what is it about him that you don't like?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
so far, everything that I've seen him do, I think you're quite lucky as a country to have him, to be honest, because of the things he's done. He's got that new. The last thing I watched on him was this alligator.
The alligator Alcatraz. Yeah. Yeah.
Alligator,
Yeah.
genius, you know, and the guy knows how to put. The guy, to me, he comes across as a big daddy. He knows how to put consequences to things, and I think when you become too soft with people, you know, like you said, there has to be balance with everything. But we're at a point where even with ICE, these are things that have to be enforced because it's been so late. But the Democrats have so come, come. They've been acting like everybody's mummy.
Mm-hmm.
You need that. No, we're not. You know,
Right.
even with your own young, you're taking the mick. You know. So for me personally, what I've seen of him, I really like him.
Yeah.
I do.
I was just curious as to what, someone who doesn't live here's opinion was, because the reason why I don't ingest the news is because I don't trust it. Just whether it's the left or the right news source, Fox, CNN, whatever, you can't trust any of it because they're all being paid by somebody to do something, or something to talk their shit. So I was just curious to what your opinion of.
I really like him. I like his character as well. And like I said, I don't listen to the news. I don't listen because it is also fabricated. So I do go when I watch I watch the way he talks to people. I like the way when I watch him in interviews, what he comes back with. I like his character. And you remember how we dealt with the shooting when he got shot, they
In
took a
the
tip of
air?
his ear. How we handled that. You may not like him, but you got to respect him. I think he's a very good leader. And what I like about him is he's a businessman. He's not a politician. So when he says he's going to do something, he's doing it. He's not playing
Yeah,
around. When he said, I'm going to do that, what I've seen so far and what I know of him. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with some of what you're saying, but I'm not mad about the whole Epstein thing. I don't really give a shit because it doesn't affect my life in one iota. But I just feel that if you're gonna run on something, but yet again, there's probably more to it than the public actually knows as to why he can't do it. You know what I mean? It's like I've said before in other shows, is that you and I as individuals are rational, smart people, but when you have people as a whole are prone to panic, prone to mass hysteria. COVID was a huge example of that. I remember going through a grocery store here, and I see this woman in full. This is like in the very beginning of it, in full kit. Like, I mean, like, a respirator and covered head. I'm like, dude, you're going to a grocery store. Just wash your hands. Yeah, individuals are smart. Masses, I feel, can be a little bit dumb.
100%. And I'm nowhere near on Trump's level in politics, but I
Mm-hmm.
was literally like a tiny little tadpole in a shark tank. And even the small amount of following that I got, I ended up meeting up with political people who were showing me certain corruption that was going on TV. They had paperwork. I've still got it to this day because it can get to a point where you can't trust anyone. You have to document things because it's like that. It's like, okay, let me document that. And you gave me it at that time. So they trust you too. And I saw certain things that I couldn't speak up on. And I was like, I'm going to have to keep that to myself. And because I had my own political party, Bring Back Britain, I had to hold back information because we knew if this got out, the effect it would have over here. So it is like that in the political arena. Someone would come to me and I had one trustworthy friend of mine, ex-military guy, who I kind of shared things with, and we discussed things together. And then we say, you know what, do you think it's good for the group for this to come and we do this? And we just would have to talk about things, but it's just not a good idea because
Mm-hmm.
everything's cause and effect. So, and it's a very intricate case and everything that went along with it. I don't know. And like I said, I wouldn't want to put it out there, but.
All right. Well, we've been at it for about an hour and a half, but I would like to extend down the road another invite to come on again.
I was excited to come on and it was definitely good. I had a good time.
Good. So just tell my people where they can find you.
Oh, yes. So on Instagram, Sabrina V, I think it's Sabrina_V_Mensah. I'm on TikTok's a good account to find me on, which is Sabrina V Mensah, V for Victoria, obviously, Sabrina Victoria Mensah. And my YouTube is also Sabrina V Mensah. And if you can't find me on Sabrina V Mensah on YouTube, try Sabrina Victoria Mensah. I'll come up. They're the main accounts. I'm on Facebook as well, Sabrina Victoria Mensah. So yeah, just those names. I'm all around. And if you've got any questions or anything, you can DM me. But yeah, if you want to follow me, great. And yeah, so you can find me mostly.
And your skincare line, any idea when that's going to launch, or are you still in the works with that, or?
I'm still working on it now. The products are in my room. I have to leave them for a month to cure. So in
Mm-hmm.
that time, I'm going to make sure the name that I've got for the business is not been taken by someone else. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll let everybody know. Yeah, I'll let everybody know when it's ready. That next podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So, all right. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll chat with you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you.